right, my friends. I just pressed the Let's Go Live button, so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Before we go ahead and get started, we've got some serious business to attend to, and we got to make sure I've got all the tabs open, all the tubes connected appropriately, and so on and so forth. I think it's working. That means we can go ahead and get started. Let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and today, my friends, we are talking about the Biden bribes. The FD 1023 form is now available for public consumption, and boy, are we going to read through it. We've got it released from Senator Chuck Grassley. So we're going to start off today going through that in detail, because Grassley made a little bit of an announcement today. You can see he's out there in his John Deere hat from the cornfields of Iowa, and he was explaining why this document is so important for America and Americans and the world, really, to see what is happening with the Biden crime family. So he put out a video. We'll take a look at that. He also dropped an official press release to give us a little bit more backbone to this. But the big story is this document, the FD 1023, and boy, we spent a lot of time here back and forth with the Oversight Committee going after Christopher Wray, saying, give me the document. They're like, well, we'll show you the document. Remember, we had the whole Christopher Wray, the flasher at the FBI. Here's the document. Did you see it? All right, one more time. Ready? You better be ready. Here. Did you see it? And then they never got to see anything. It was all redacted in the first place. So that document now has finally been dropped, and I don't know how it got dropped, but we are going to go into it. Now, there are some slight reactions on it, but it is most of the goods. So we'll go through it now. This is important on two levels. One, of course, is it implicates the Biden crime family and it exposes them, because this is a confidential human source that provides this detail to the FBI. Explosive stuff in the contents of the document itself, sure. But the other layer to this whole thing is that the FBI presumably didn't do anything about it. They just sat on it and just said, oh, no, 5 million big guy, what? No, what are you talking about? White supremacy. So we'll go through it. And then I want to jump over to the Oversight Committee and see what they had to say about it, because this got dropped from the Senate, and then the Oversight Committee is really the body that's been doing a lot of this heavy lifting over at the House of Representatives. And so we'll check in with both houses in Congress to see what they have to say about it, but it's a major drop. The media is covering this thing up everywhere you look. If you just go on any news site, they're all talking about ridiculous nonsense, doing everything they can to not discuss this case. But we will talk about it. And so that's where we'll start on the day. Then I want to spend some time talking about this timeline that the Oversight Committee put together, because it is really, really good. And I don't know if you've seen this before. If you want to get the links for anything that you see on this mind map as we go through the show today, you can sign up to get access to this exact mind map at robertgouveia.com. Just go on over there, sign up for the newsletter and the mind map, and you can get links to everything I'm showing you, including PDFs, all the videos, it's all there. But there is this link to the Oversight Committee. They dropped this, and it's pretty dang amazing. So you can see this is the document. We're going to spend some time going through this today, but it starts at the year 2009. Well, I got to fix the description in the title. I thought we were starting at 2014 today. I was wrong. 2009 is when all this criminality starts. And so we'll rewind the clock. Where the heck was I? What the heck was I doing in 2009? Just starting law school, man. So Biden's were, criminalizing the world all the way back then. And we'll go all the way through this, all the way down to 2023, and we're just going to go, it's like a tweet storm here, and we're going to try to piece together what is going on in video format. Look at this. Look at this criminality, man. It's all here. So we're going to spend some time on that. Should be a fun one to get into. And then we'll wrap it up with the conversation that was taking place in Congress today via the Weaponization Committee in Congress. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was there at a hearing on censorship, and the Democrats voted to censor him. Hello? Self-awareness, hello? But they are so petrified that their scam and their Democratic scheme is going to be blown into oblivion by guys like Robert F. Kennedy and by this guy tucked away right behind him. Who is that? Oh, Dennis Kucinich, an old school actual Democrat. We'd like to see more of them back in reality, but unfortunately the party's been seized by the AOCs of the world. But the point is, they were there today, and he was going to testify about why he's been suspended. Now listen, we've experienced a lot of this. We've had videos on this channel, on YouTube, struck, and we are grateful for Rumble and Locals, our family there. But this has been something that we've been dealing with for a long time. Kennedy has also been dealt with this. He had one of his interviews nuked after he got into the jab, which is a big no-no, and other reasons. And they're using this as an excuse to say he's this big racist now, and that all of his voice should be silenced. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz, one of the weirdest people on this planet, moved to do this because she wanted to censor him. And all the Democrats on the board all joined in, including this woman, Plaskett. She explains this whole thing on MAGA Republicans, and that allowing Robert F. Kennedy, a lifelong Democrat, to testify is now MAGA Republicans winning and seizing control of America. So we'll listen to Robert Kennedy. He goes off for 10 minutes, man, and he delivers this beautiful speech on free speech and why it's so important. And you see Desky sitting right back there. He's like, yeah, baby, go. And now this is going to be a big problem for the Democrats. You know, I have to imagine that there are some sane people in that party who really do listen to this and go, you know what, I kind of missed that. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought of being a Democrat was. Just like people on the right go, oh yeah. When Mitch McConnell is set aside and we actually hear conservatism and America First values and patriotic talk, we go, wow, incredible. I have to imagine there's maybe some Democrats over there that might be listening to this, maybe thinking about a third party, maybe thinking that their party has some hope left. We'll see. That could be a big problem for the whack jobs in the left that want the status quo to march forward, where they just slice and dice the country into different classes, races, demographics, income brackets, and so on and so forth. And so, my friends, we've got a lot to get to today. As you can see, we've got RFK Jr. in the house. We've got Hunty and Joe Biden and their criminal timeline coming up. And we've got the FD 1023 that the FBI has been sitting on for a long time now to cover up for the Biden crime family. We're going to go through the actual document that was released by Senator Chuck Grassley. And so we've got a lot to get to now. If you joined us this morning, if you were a member, then you would have been able to join us this morning. But that's if you missed it, no problem. We'll have more stuff tomorrow if you join. But we talked about UFO stuff this morning. We got into a very interesting conversation about, it was an existential conversation really about the fabric of reality, quite frankly. What is time? Is it relative to humanity? Are we coexisting with our consciousness and the physical world in a way that they are necessary for the other to exist? It's some heavy stuff we talked about. We also talked about UFOs. There's going to be a major hearing next week that we will be covering. And Marco Rubio also said that this could be the biggest story in human history, basically saying these whistleblowers have some pretty damning evidence. And so we talked about all that this morning. Those videos will be coming out later. We appreciate our members for supporting us and joining us as we get into some of the fun stuff elsewhere. And if you want to join us, great place to do that, watchingthewatchers.local.com, where you can join up as a member on YouTube. Either way, we love to have you. And we appreciate we've got some new members joining in here at the start of the show. We also do some fun stuff where we try to, every morning, hit the docket updates, hit the presidential schedule, go through the congressional committee schedule, get our bearings straight for the news on the day. So if you're looking for a little extra fun, come and join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And one other reminder, robertgovea.com is now live, and if you want to access literally this entire mind map, you can go there, sign up for the newsletter, totally free. We have daily reports that are being posted that are summarizing the video, so if you'd rather read rather than watch, you can go to the website and read the reports of the video. We also have a tutorial on how to use this mind map so that you can navigate around, access the same mind map that I'm showing you on the screen. You can browse around, learn how to use it, get your PDFs, get your video files, whatever you need. So check it out, robertgovea.com. Also, want to remind you that it's a good time to get your field of greens, because we all would like to lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds. But how sick are you of all the ads for weight loss pills and fad diets? You know, we've all been there. We've all done that. And they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You do that and the weight would probably just fall right off. But my friends, vegetables, not a fan, and fruit, Who's got time to prepare that every day, all the time? I don't. Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula, very specific fruits and vegetables that you will not find in any other product, because proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you're going to look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup, and you walk right in there to your doctor, and he just backs it. He goes, "Whoa, man, that is crazy. You lost weight. Whatever you're doing, keep it up." And so we're going to know it's fieldofgreens.com, and you can save 15% off your first order when you go to fieldofgreens.com and enter code Robert at checkout, so that you can save 15%, baby. And that is some good savings from our friends at fieldofgreens.com. Remember, the vegetables want to be eaten, my friends, okay? They are good for us. They pop out of the ground, bursting with nutrition and energy, green energy, the good kind of green energy, and they're delicious. So make sure you get your Field of Greens and use code Robert. All right. Now let's get to it. On the day, we have some meat and potatoes. The Biden bribe documents have finally been released. We know Congress has been fighting for these files for a long time. Senator Grassley in the Senate. We've got the House of Representatives, James Comer in the Oversight Committee, been digging for this for a long time. And we had the FBI being very coy about it. No, what documents? FD 1023? I don't even know what you're talking about. Oh, that FD 1023. Oh, well, it kind of sort of exists maybe. Oh, you want to see it? Then we got a subpoena from Congress. Then Christopher Wray kind of brought it over, and now the whole thing has been released. We know this has been a long fight. We've been covering here for a while. We're going to read through the full thing. There are some redactions. This was released from Senator Grassley's office, so I think they're protecting names and identities, but the rest of the document is mostly available. And there are two layers as we go through this. One, of course, is what is inside the document that details the criminality that is existing within the Biden crime family, from Hunter to Joe to James to Hallie to all of them. But it's beyond that. It's the level of cover-up. It's not just a crime family that has somehow gotten their way into power of the most powerful country in the world. It's also the cover-up. It's also the fact that the FBI enabled this to happen. And that when there were whistleblowers, there was no investigation. They should have done something about it. They didn't, and the question is why. Does that lead to compromise of Joe Biden? Is he now doing the bidding of Christopher Wray and the FBI? Why wasn't there an investigation into all of this when if Trump so much as jaywalks, he is facing the death penalty? Well, Chuck Grassley came out from Iowa, and he released the following statement. He's a senator. He said, "I've released the FD 1023, my friends. I've been working on getting from the FBI for a year." Now you can read it for yourself, thanks to patriotic whistleblowers. And we love our whistleblowers here. Shout out to all the whistleblowers. Blow those whistles, my friends. And so this is Senator Grassley. Here's what he says.
Well, it's been a long time.
Indeed.
Almost a year. But thanks to patriotic people that we call whistleblowers, in this case, in the bowels of the bureaucracy of the FBI and the Department of Justice, I'm able today to release to the American people the FBI document that we go by the number 1023.
Beautiful.
That has some information that the American people might know about some shenanigans that Vice President Biden and Hunter Biden may have been involved in.
Couple shenanigans.
Now it's up to the FBI to tell us what they've done in regard to this. But I want the people to be able to read, the people of this country, to be able to read what I read 3 months ago, so that they know. By the way, this was an unclassified document, and there was no reason it should have taken 1 year to get our hands on this document so the American people can read it.
And we are going to read it. They were dragging their feet on this for a long time. We know why, because they don't want us to see what's in it. And they want to bury this under all of the other news of the day. We expect a Donald Trump indictment, third one, to come out any minute now, just so that we can all be jerked a different direction. But here is the formal release from Grassley. He said the following. He says, Grassley obtains and releases the FBI record alleging the VP Biden for bribery scheme. And this has been something that Comer's been working on too. They say they continue their joint inquiry into the FBI handling of the investigation. So again, it's not only just Biden's criminality, which is obvious and everywhere, but it's also the FBI's cover-up or their failure to prosecute. They say that today they released this. Grassley said for the better part of a year, we've been working to release this. While the FBI sought to obfuscate and redact it, the American people can now read it. Questions. Why did the DOJ and the FBI take so long? What did they do with the detailed information and document? They just read it and say, well, this is a nice report. Well, why don't we just put that over there in the someday pile? And why have they tried to conceal it from Congress and the American people for so long? We deserve to know. So here's the comment. Grassley first disclosed the FBI's possession of this last year. We know that they had it. We know that they sat on it. Now he's been working to unearth this. We'll read through the full thing here. But he gives us some names. Polu Chile, according to the confidential human source, executives for Burisma, a Ukrainian gas company, brought Hunter on board to, quote, protect us through his dad from all kinds of problems. They talk about backup, and you can see there's a whole slew of additional documents here. And so, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Let's make sure we've got our red pen marked and ready to go. You can see this was authorized for public release by Ranking Member Grassley and Chairman Comer. We are going to check in with James Comer and the Oversight Committee because they have their take on this as well. Now, this is the big document, FD 1023, out of the FBI. This is the CHS reporting document, confidential human source. We've been waiting for this document for a while. And remember that they tell us that this source is somebody who's quite credible, near or above 6 figures of income that the FBI has paid out to this person. So somebody that the FBI deems to be reliable enough that they'll give them money. Now, the date of this disclosure, that's pretty interesting right there. What day is that? Oh, yeah. June 30th, 2020. Anything else happening around that time? Oh, yeah, the 2020 election. So we have a whistleblower who comes out and says, oh, crap, Joe Biden is like the nominee. He might actually win this thing. He's actually running here. Maybe I should talk to the FBI about it. Maybe this would be useful if the FBI did something about this, since the man is running for president. But here is what the document says. We don't see the case agent name. We don't see the field office. We don't know what squad they're a part of. None of that is available to us. But we do see that this contact happened June 30th, 2020. Some of the things are redacted. Who's there is redacted. The case file redacted. But they tell us the following. The source reporting says, on June 26, 2020, the confidential human source reported the following. Came in, met with the FBI, and here's the conversation. The first meeting with Burisma executives in Kyiv, Ukraine. The subject of this next paragraph. The dates, 2015, 2016. Trump was running in 2016, which means Joe Biden was the president during this time, vice president. In late 2015 or 2016, during the Obama-Biden administration, the confidential human source was first introduced to officials at Ukraine natural gas business called Burisma. CHS goes, meets with the leader of Burisma. His name is Alexander Ostapenko. Full ID as follows. The source and Ostapenko, they traveled to Ukraine and went to Burisma's office that was located 20 minutes away from the city center. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss Burisma's interest in purchasing a U.S.-based oil and gas business. So this source goes flying around with this executive. They're hanging outside the city in Ukraine. They're there to discuss Burisma. They're saying Burisma might be interested in purchasing a U.S.-based oil and gas business. And the reason is because we want to purchase a U.S. business, merge it with Burisma, which is the Ukrainian energy company, and then we'll conduct an initial public offering in the United States. Burisma says, okay, that sounds great. We want to do business in the United States. So we'll purchase the U.S. entity for 20 to 30 million. That's going to be great. We'll get an American company. We're in Ukraine. Okay, we'll buy that company, 30 million, no problem. Then we'll merge. Then we can IPO together, and we won't have to go through all of the regulatory nonsense of a foreign company becoming an American company and then moving for an IPO, which will take a lot longer, we'll have a lot more scrutiny and all this crap. So CHS says, we'll just work it out. Let's just buy this company. Now, at this meeting, the source's former business partner, redacted, we don't know who that is, and someone else, Burisma's CFO, Vadim Porcharsky, was also there, and Karina Zolchevsky was there, the daughter of Burisma's CEO and the founder of Burisma, Mykola Zolchevsky. All these Burisma people were all there. CHS goes, tons of executives. Her husband was there. The conversation was in Russian, and thus blank did not participate therein. And that must be the source. So these people are talking in Russian, and so the source can't understand it. During the meeting, Porcharsky asked the confidential human source whether the source was aware of Burisma's board of directors. He said, no, I don't know them. Porcharsky said, well, the board members include the following people. So, do you know who's on our board? No, I'm not sure who's on your board. He says, well, it's a pretty serious board. He says the board includes the Prime Minister of Poland. It also includes Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden. This guy, Porcharsky, said that Burisma hired the former president and the Prime Minister of Poland to leverage his contacts in Europe. So that guy was getting the grift. And they hired Hunter Biden to quote the following quote, Hunter is going to, quote, protect us through his dad from all kinds of problems. Hunter is going to protect us through his daddy from all kinds of problems. The source was certain Porcharsky provided no further details about what that meant. He's like, what the hell does that mean? From all kinds of problems? Like, what kind of problems? So the source asked why they, Burisma, needed to get the CHS's assistance regarding the purchase of a U.S. company. You've got Biden on your board. Why can't you just, why do you need to buy a company? This source is sitting there. He's like, 30 million for an American energy company? You got the vice president's son on your board. You're not going to have any problems. Porcharsky says, well, yeah, that's true. He is on this board. But he said that Hunter Biden was not smart. No kidding. And they wanted to get additional counsel. Yeah, because he wasn't useful. He's got literally no skills, no qualifications. He got jammed through law school because of his daddy, I'm sure. And all of that was set up for him. Now he's just the bag man for the Biden family. So now they put Hunter on this board. They're like, well, he's going to make this easy for us. Everybody on the board's like, this guy's an idiot. So we got to go get different counsel. They bring in the confidential human source. They say, now we got to just buy a company. The first thing that we're trying to do with Hunty didn't work out. So the group then had a general conversation about whether the purchase merger with a U.S. company would be a good business decision. You sure you want to do that? He's like, you sure you want to purchase this? So we have another section. Now we have a meeting between the CHS, Ostapenko, Mykola Zolchevsky in Vienna, Austria, 2016. So Joe Biden is still the vice president, remember, all the way up until 2017 in January. Approximately 1 to 2 months after the first meeting, the source then left. He's like, okay, well, I met with the board of Burisma. They said Hunter's an idiot. So then he traveled to Vienna, to Austria, with Ostap, and he met with Mykola Zolchevsky at an outside coffee shop. Remember, that's the executive of Burisma. He is the owner of the entire company, or the founder of the company. They say that the trio continued to talk about the feasibility of Burisma acquiring a U.S.-based entity. Okay, so wait a minute. So they're, okay, well, maybe we should purchase that company, 20 to 30 million. What company? What is it going to do for us? And this confidential human source is facilitating this whole thing. So the CHS recalled this meeting. He said, okay, well, he's talking to the FBI agent. He's like, well, what happened at this FBI agent? He's like, he's probably half asleep. He's like, oh, this is a Biden investigation? I don't care. So he says, well, what happened next? He says, well, this meeting took place right around the time that Joe Biden made a public statement about a former Ukraine prosecutor called Viktor Shokin being corrupt, and that he would be fired and removed from office. That's that clip from Joe Biden out there saying, I'm going to hold that $1 billion back. And doggone it, they fired the guy. The source told Zolchensky from Burisma that due to Shokin's investigation into Burisma, the prosecutor was investigating Burisma. That was made public. He says, look, you guys are being investigated. It's going to have a substantial negative impact on your IPO in the United States. You can't go public in the United States when your company is under investigation from your version of the feds. It's not going to go through our regulators. Sorry. Zolchensky said something to the effect of, the owner of Burisma, founder of Burisma, Hunter is on the board. He tells the source, don't worry about it. Hunter will take care of all of those issues through Dad. Hunter will take care of all of those issues through his daddy. The source did not ask any further questions about that. He's like, okay, well, I just heard a crime being committed. Okay. So he then asked Zolchensky, he says, well, okay, so you want to buy a company, but why would Burisma, why would you pay 20 to 30 million to buy a U.S. company for an IPO when it would be cheaper to just form a new U.S. entity? You could just go and purchase a corporate shell. It's already listed on an exchange. Just go buy a company. This guy's a business transaction guru. Says Zolchensky responded that the Hunter Biden advised Burisma that we could raise much more capital if Burisma purchased a larger U.S.-based business that already had a history in the oil and gas sector. Source says, well, and I was sitting there, and I recall they told me that Hunter said we should just buy a bigger company. He said that Zolchensky mentioned a couple of these businesses. He picked a couple of them in Texas. What did he tell you the names of the companies in Texas? No, I don't remember the names. But then the source says, okay, well, Zolchensky, look, I mean, it's going to be problematic to raise capital in the United States given the investigation into Burisma. So it's the same problem. Right? Whether you want to start an IPO or go public with an IPO, or whether you want to purchase a big company and raise capital, they're all going to do their due diligence, and they're all going to see that you're under investigation. Nobody in the United States is going to invest into the company that was the subject of a criminal investigation, is how this conversation goes. And so the source suggests, he says, it would be best for you guys, just Burisma, to simply just litigate this matter in Ukraine. You guys got to resolve it here. Pay some attorney, pay some attorney $50,000 and just make it go away. So Zolchensky from Burisma said, oh man, I mean, we can't do that though. Zolchensky said that if Burisma and if we go to trial, we're going to likely lose the trial because he says we could not show that Burisma was innocent. I can't pay to make it go away. We're not going to fight it here. We're dead to rights. I'm going to get convicted, man. That's why I got Hunter. Zolchensky also laughed at CHS's number of $50,000. He said $50,000. He says not because of the small amount, but because the amount contained a 5. He said, oh, 50,000, 5, yeah, 5, perfect. Everybody likes the 5 number. It's a nice round number. What does that mean? Zolchensky said to the source, he said, well, it's just convenient. It cost $5 million to pay one Biden and $5 million to pay another Biden. Zolchensky tells that to the source. $50,000. It's very convenient. Sounds familiar. Cost us $5 million to pay the one Biden, another $5 million to pay another Biden. Now you want me to give $50 grand to some lawyer? Gosh, man, everybody's hosing me. The source noted that at the time it was unclear to the source whether these alleged payments were already made. It cost me $5 million, or it's costing me. Hunter's already on this. It cost me $10 million to them. But then the source told Zolchensky. He said, "Well, hold on a minute." He's like, "Listen, man. If you pay the Bidens $5 million, that's going to complicate things, all right? Maybe we shouldn't do that. Like, if you actually want to resolve this, don't pay them." He says Burisma should hire some normal U.S. oil and gas investors, all right? Not Hunter. Hire a normal U.S. oil and gas advisor. Somebody who knows what they're doing, who actually will deliver results for you. He says the Bidens have no experience with that business sector at all. They don't really have any experience with any business sector other than government. Zolchensky made some comment. He says, well, although Hunter was stupid and his dog was smarter than Hunter, Zolchensky needed to keep Hunter Biden on the board so everything will be okay. Amazing. He's I know the guy's a moron and dumber than my dog at home, who's a real good boy, by the way. Have you seen a picture of him? Hold on a minute. I know. Let me just show you. He says, he's dumber than my dog. But he is the vice president's son, and so I can't really fire him. Otherwise, there's going to be problems. So the source says, well, did Hunter or Joe Biden tell Zolchensky he should retain Hunter Biden? Did Hunter tell you to hire Hunter? Or what happened here? Zolchensky says, well, they both did. They both told them to hire him. Did Hunter or Joe say you should hire Hunter? They both told me we should hire Hunter. Joe Biden's involved in this entire saga. He says Hunter talked to him, but Dad was there too. The source reiterated the source's opinion that Zolchensky was making a mistake and that he should fire Hunter Biden. He's like, all right. Yeah, look, man, I know he's the vice president's son, but the guy is an idiot. You should just deal with the prosecutor's investigation directly, all right? The matter is going to remain an issue in Ukraine. Don't involve the Bidens. They're idiots. And not in turn, and don't turn this into an international matter, says this guy. Just like the voice of reason in this whole thing. Zolchensky responded something to the effect of, don't worry, man. This thing will go away anyway. Not even worried about it. Don't worry. This thing's going to go away anyway. The source said, all right, well, look, notwithstanding Shokin's investigation into you, it's still a bad decision for Burisma to spend $20 to $30 million to buy a U.S. business. Okay, look, you want to be in bed with Hunter? That's fine. Get yourself checked. But that's fine. You can work with him, keep him on the board. But his advice, just separately, is idiotic. Don't buy $20, $30 million U.S. oil and gas company. He says, if you do that, I don't want to be involved with Biden. All right? You do that on your own. He said, well, Zolchensky from Burisma. He said, well, that's good advice. I appreciate your advice, but it's too late to change my decision. I already pressed send. The source understood this meaning that Zolchensky had already paid the Bidens, presumably, to deal with the prosecutor. And we know that the Biden vice presidency, Joe Biden himself, did deal with the prosecutor. He sat there on the phone and said, fire the prosecutor or I'm leaving with $1 billion of U.S. aid. Prosecutor was fired. There were other phone calls now between the source and Zolchensky, the owner of Burisma. Shortly after the 2016 election, Donald Trump won, shocked the world. And during Trump's transition period, the source participated in a conference call with Ostapenko and Zolchensky. The CHS inquired whether Zolchensky was happy with the U.S. election results. Source calls. Hey, Clinton didn't win out there. Trump's in charge. Zolchensky says, no, actually, no, I'm not happy that Trump won this election. He said, why? Are you concerned about Burisma's involvement with the Bidens? In other words, you thought this whole thing was going to be covered up when Hillary Clinton took over, and now you're concerned that Trump is going to be looking into Ukraine? Zolchensky said, well, look, I didn't want to pay the Bidens, all right? I was pushed to pay them, which I don't doubt for a minute. I don't doubt that for a minute. I bet Hunter threatened the whole company. You better pay us, or else my vice president daddy is going to make it real hard on your company. So they just said, all right, man, this is like the mob, so I guess we got to pay our racket. The source explained that the Russian term Zolchensky used to explain the payments was called porochili. Translated by the source, it translates literally to got it or received it. But it's also used in Russian slang for being forced to pay, for being coerced to pay. Zolchensky stated that Shokin had already been fired. And no investigation was going on. He said it's already over. Biden already fired this guy. And nobody would find out about my financial dealings with the Bidens. It's all water under a bridge. The source says, well, I hope you have some backup proof for your words, man. Namely that Zolchensky was forced to pay the Bidens. I mean, if you're forced to pay these guys, you better have some backup on that, because Trump's going to come sniffing around on this. The DOJ is going to say, what is all this going on? Biden's are dirty as can be. They were banking on the Clinton victory, but Trump won. He said, well, don't worry about that. Yeah, I definitely was forced to pay the Bidens. I've got all the records. He said, yeah, don't worry about it. I've got many text messages, and guess what else he's got? And recordings that show that he was coerced to make the payments. And there's more. The CHS told Zolchensky that he should make certain that he retains those recordings. You better hang on to those, buddy, because this is going to come back to bite you. Zolchensky asked whether it would make any legal difference whether he voluntarily made the payments or if he was forced to make them. He's like, well, what if I made them voluntarily? Or what's the difference if I forced to pay them? He asked the source whether the source could provide any assistance in Ukraine with the Poroshenko regime if something were to happen in the future. He said, nope. Source said, sorry, bro. I told you, don't get in bed with these Bidens. I didn't want to get involved in any of those matters, says the source. Now, there's a note here. There's a previous report where the source reported the foregoing. And he stated the call took place between the week of 2/27/2017. So, Trump wins, VP Biden's out of office now. At that time, CHS stated that Zolchensky briefly discussed Hunter Biden, but the topic was not relevant to Burisma's interest in acquiring a U.S.-based business for $50 to $100 million. At this time, the source also reported that Vadim Pozharsky, which is Pozharsky, was assigned by Burisma to manage the acquisition, and he was going to travel to D.C. March 2017. And so then we fast forward years. We have a 2019 telephone call. After the aforementioned 2016 call, the source had no interactions with Zolchensky or Burisma whatsoever, all the way up until 2019. In 2019, the source met with Ostapenko in London to discuss various business matters which had nothing to do with Zolchensky or Burisma or oil and gas, nothing to do with anything. The source noted that the meeting took place at a Russian coffee house near a department store, and that Ostapenko's fiancée lives in London. At some point during the meeting at the coffee shop, Ostapenko advised the source that he was going to call Zolchensky back from Burisma. I'm going to give him let me give him a call. He comes up. So at this time, the source understood that Zolchensky was living somewhere in Europe. Don't know where. During the call, they get him on the phone. Zlochevsky asks the source again, and or Ostapenko, if they read the recent news reports about the investigations into Biden and Burisma. He's like, oh man, 2020's coming up. Looks like Joe Biden might be running for president again. And Zlochevsky jokingly asked the source if the source was an oracle. He said, man, how did you call that one? He's like, you were right about that, man. I shouldn't have, yikes. Maybe I shouldn't have actually done business with those Bidens. What are you, an oracle? That was due to his prior advice that he should not pay the Bidens and instead should hire an attorney. He's like, derp. So the source mentioned, he's like, well, yeah, Zlochevsky, now you're kind of in a difficult spot. You might have difficulty explaining those very suspicious wire transfers that may evidence any illicit payments to the Bidens. I mean, it's all the bank records are there now. Zlochevsky responded, he says, no. He said, I didn't send any funds directly to the big guy. I didn't send any information directly to him, which the source understood as a reference to Joe Biden. So the source says, well, how many companies and bank accounts do you control? He said, well, it would take them, the investigators, 10 years to find the records. We transferred these through so many different companies. They're founded, and these bank accounts are in different countries and different banks under different shell companies. Like they're never going to find it. Those illicit payments to Joe Biden take investigators 10 years. So the source told Zlochevsky, well, if you ever needed help in the future and you want to speak to somebody in the government about that matter, let me know. I can introduce you to somebody if you need them. Now, regarding the seemingly open and unsolicited admissions by two people, Pojarski and Zlochevsky, about the purpose for their retaining Hunter Biden and the forced payments that Zlochevsky made to the Bidens, the source explained now back to the FBI, he's sitting there telling them all of this, he explained it's very common for businessmen in post-Soviet countries to brag or show off. This is what they do. He said it's also extremely common for businesses in Russia and Ukraine to make bribe payments to various government officials, which is what they do. He also noted that in corporate budgets and other Russian and Ukrainian businesses that the source has inspected in the past, he observed budget line items in Russia called podmazat, which literally means oil and lubrication to make things run smoothly. So they put it as a line item in their expenditures. A little bit of grease. Give them some grease. Which companies routinely use to anticipate bribe payments? So Hunter's just like, yeah, I want that job. Sure. I can do nothing for a ton of money. As such, given the pervasive necessity to bribe government officials in Ukraine and Russia, the source did not perceive Pocharsky or Zlochevsky's statements as unusual or self-serving or pretextual. No, this is just business. They may not even think it's a crime, like they're joking about it, right? This guy's like, do not even think about sending a wire transfer. He's like, but we budgeted for it, though. Additionally, regarding important business meetings, it's also common in Ukraine and Russia for persons to make covert recordings. However, the source has only met with Zlochevsky in person on one occasion and has spoken to him only twice on telephone. And as such, the CHS is not able to provide any further opinion as to the veracity of his statements. Now, there was another statement added as a supplement. We get an update, June 29, 2020. Regarding the CHS's aforementioned reporting that Zlochevsky has said, quote, he has many text messages and recordings that show he was coerced to make the payments. The source clarified that the source said he only had a total of 17 recordings involving the Bidens. He has a total, let's clean this up. Let's erase that and say, what the heck did that just say? Clarified that Zlochevsky said he had a total of 17 recordings. 17 involving the Bidens. 2 of the recordings included Joe Biden. 2. and the remaining 15 recordings only included Hunty Poo. The source also reiterated that per Zolchensky, these recordings evidence Zolchensky's was somehow coerced into paying the Bidens to ensure that Viktor Shokin was fired. And he was. Joe Biden is on record saying, I literally threatened to withhold American aid to the tune of $1 billion unless he was gone. He's gone. Zolchensky stated that he has two, quote, documents which they understood to be wire transfer statements and bank records, etc., that evidence some payments to the Bidens were made, presumably in exchange for the prosecutor's firings. And about the aforementioned spelling, they say Ostapenko, different spellings for his name, he works in some office of the administration of the president of Zelensky. Currently working for Zelensky. And also works for Valery Vavilov, the CEO founder of a cryptocurrency called BitFury. Now they give us a synopsis here. Oh, that's the end of it. So that is the end of the document. First level approved by this person, submitted by this person, all done Tuesday, June 2020, part of the official record, the FD 1023 form that exposes the Biden crime family. What a document. Monstrous in its consequence. If anybody in Congress or the DOJ would listen to it, we'll see. But it exposes the entire scheme, and we know that Joe Biden, based on this document, was involved. Amazing. So the Oversight Committee over in the House of Representatives has some thoughts on this as well. They give us some details. They say, here are a few critical pieces of information. This came from a trusted, highly credible CHS who's been used by the FBI for over a decade. And he sounded like it. He gave him good advice. It all came true. He was introduced to Mikolo, Burisma's CEO and founder. And we went through most of these details. But they're highlighting for us that they hired Hunter so that his dad could protect the company. They said, don't worry, Hunter's going to take care of all of those issues through Daddy. $5 million to one Biden, $5 million to the other. That Hunter was as stupid as Zolchensky thought, but they had to keep him on board. And they dealt with Shokin. Joe Biden did deal with Shokin. 17 recordings of this presumably out there somewhere, and documents evidencing the wire transfers. But there are open questions about this, and these are the important ones. What did the FBI do to verify these allegations? Did they do anything, or did they take this report from a highly credible 10-year informant to whom they paid tens of thousands of dollars and just sit on it? And did they do that in the era in which this would have been consequential to the country? We know they did. The question is, will they be held accountable for this cover-up? And of course, my friends, we will continue to cover this as Congress continues to investigate. Thank you for liking and subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. This story will continue forward, and we'll be here to cover it. We'd love to have you join us. But we're not done yet, because this is just the beginning. The Oversight Committee released a timeline, 14 years of the Biden crime family revealed to us in a beautiful chart that we will go through in detail, starting all the way back in 2009 and taking us into the present time. You can see that when we start here, we're going to go back to when the Obama and Biden administration began, January 20th, 2009. They're in charge. They're in office. Something happens in 2013. What do we have here? Hunter Biden, a business associate, and Chinese investors, they create this company. It's called BHR, Bohai Harvest. It's an investment fund controlled by the Bank of China, focusing on mergers and acquisitions. Soon as Joe Biden is in office, Hunter gets to work. BHR is created. We see that China has Joe Biden arrive. He goes over there with Hunter on Air Force Two, and he meets with the CEO of BHR, called this guy, Jonathan Lee. That happens December 4th, 2013. Hunter hops on the plane. Shortly after the plane ride, BHR's business license was approved, and Hunter Biden was a board member. Isn't that amazing? VP Biden brings his son over there. They put him on the board. Here's a picture. This one comes out of Kazakhstan. We've got Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and other businessmen meeting with Hunter Biden at a hotel in Washington, D.C. They're hanging out with one another. We go to Ukraine, April 2014. This is when Burisma comes into play. Burisma is a Ukrainian energy company now. Suddenly, they also appoint Biden, a Biden business associate, to their board of directors. We fast forward a week over in Kazakhstan. This company called Kenis wires $150,000 to his Latvian company to another Rosemont entity. Now, this is where we see Joe Biden travels over to Ukraine. And here is what he said.
You face very daunting problems and some might say humiliating threats that are taking place indirectly. And but the opportunity to generate a united Ukraine, getting it right, is within your grasp. And we want to be your partner, your friend in the project. We want to, and we're ready to assist. We can help in stabilizing and strengthening Ukraine's economy by helping you withstand the unfair economic pressure being thrust upon you. We stand ready to do that, and I say the American people stand ready. And this is a delicate thing to say to a group of leaders in their House of Parliament, but you have to fight the cancer of corruption that is endemic in your system right now.
Not Hunter and Biden corruption. So then we see there is another entity. The Rosemont entity then wires $142,000 to a car dealership. Now, who gets that car? Hunter Biden. $142,000 New Jersey sports car for Hunter. That's from Rosemont entity. For what? Nobody knows. Then we go to May. Joe Biden is still traveling around the world, grifting off of his position. He is arriving. You can see he posted this on his Twitter account when he could walk up the stairs of an aircraft before. Wheels up in D.C. Next stop, Romania. Wow, he can even carry a bag up back then. So that was in 2014. Now he goes to Romania. Joe Biden's traveling around. Then he speaks, when he visits in Romania, he gives a talk to the members of Parliament.
Mr. President, we may be listening to a future president. I don't know. I want to thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. It's a pleasure having an opportunity to spend some time with you as well, and the Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies, and the President of the Senate, and the Justice Minister.
All right, so he's over in Romania talking around over there. And then in September 2014, BHR, one of the companies we saw earlier, they drop a cool $1.7 billion into a CCP-linked petroleum and chemical company. About a quarter later, in December, China and BHR, they invest. Hunter and a business associate, they drop then about $500,000 into BHR. So BHR invests 1.7 into CCP. Hunter invests into BHR. Then we go forward a couple weeks to the end of December. Another Kazakhstani oil company and Burisma, they join with another CCP-linked company, and they create this transnational arrangement. So now we've got Kazakhstan, we've got Burisma, and a CCP company, financial transaction agreement. 2015 in March, Ukraine. Hunter Biden organizes a campaign dinner at Cafe Milano in Washington, D.C., and he has his daddy stop by to meet with a high-level official called Vadim Pozharsky. Daddy swings by. September, BEFR joins with the CCP-linked entity to acquire a U.S. automotive deal, $600 million for that deal. In Romania, Vice President Biden welcomes the Romanian president to the White House. He states the Vice President welcomed the president of Romania to focus on anti-corruption efforts and a rule of law as a means to strengthen international investment. He said that we're happy with what you're doing to fight corruption. Meanwhile, Hunter's getting paid. In Ukraine, Vadim Pozharsky suggests high-level U.S.-level officials come to Ukraine and talk with prosecutor Viktor Shokin and Poroshenko about Zlochevsky's investigations. Why don't you send some people over here? Prosecutor Shokin was investigating Burisma and Burisma's owners, Zlochevsky, for fraud, which he just acknowledged that basically existed in the FD 1023. Prosecutor Shokin is the Ukrainian government official that Vice President Biden demanded Poroshenko fire. We heard that clip. Back in Romania, there's another person, Gabriel Popoviciu, who begins making payments into another LLC. This is Robinson Walker LLC. We talk about all these different shell companies. This entity is owned by a Biden associate, Rob Walker. Popoviciu's company sent Rob Walker a wire for $180,000, and they paid that company $3 million. Biden family, they got $1 million from that LLC after the deposit. So Walker then dumped a portion of that back over to the Bidens. 16 of the 17 payments from Popoviciu's company to Robinson were made while Joe Biden was vice president. We're up November 2015. This is a high-level government official working with Obama and Biden. He meets with Hunter Biden, and he discusses Burisma. So Hunter is actually doing some lobbying here. Okay, so he goes and he meets with this guy, Amos Hochstein, officially in the U.S. government. Rob Walker then, from Romania, he wires Hunter Biden $60,000 back in November 2015. Amos, the guy that Hunter met with, okay, so Hunter goes and meets with this guy. Then this guy meets with Vice President Biden for whatever reason. Amos Hochstein calls Hunter Biden back in Ukraine. Hunter then travels to Romania. He meets with the U.S. ambassador to Romania. And then Vice President Biden goes to Ukraine as well. You can see this is from his trip. Announces a trip back over to Ukraine. Meanwhile, Pozharsky emails Hunter Biden confirmation. He says, "Is the Vice President coming over here?" Hunter says, "Yeah." Then we get to December. We have China now. Hunter Biden and the CEFC chairman, Ye Jingming, they start communicating. The Chinese want in on it. Robinson Walker sent Hunter another $60,000 in December for whatever reason that was. Vice President Biden then arrives in Ukraine. Remember, we've been talking about this prosecutor being fired. And guess what? Here's Biden. Vice President Biden arrives in Ukraine, where demands to fire General Shokin are discussed. Here's what Biden said.
I was not but it just happened to be that was the assignment I got. I got all the good ones, so I got Ukraine, and I remember going over convincing our team, our others, to convincing that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there's another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press. I said, "No," I said, "I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion."
$1 billion.
They said, "You have no authority. You're not the president." The president said, I said, "Call him." I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the billion. I'm going to be leaving here. I think it was, what, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor is not fired, you're not getting the money.
Wow.
Well, son of a bitch.
Got fired. Yeah, tough guy got fired because he was using American aid as leverage. Because that's exactly what Hunter Biden wanted, because he was getting paid $80,000. Apparently, Joe Biden, according to the FD 1023, got $5 million cool from Ukraine, Burisma, and Hunter got the other half. In a quid pro quo, he got it done, and he used $1 billion of American aid as leverage. December 9th, 2015, he then leaves Ukraine, gets a commitment from Poroshenko that Shokin will be fired. He was. Vice President Biden hosts a holiday party. Amos Hochstein and Hunter Biden both attend. Amos was the guy Hunter met with to discuss Burisma. Hunter, in December, gets another $60,000 from Robinson Walker. Another 60 grand. Woo! How many times was that in a month? Wow, was that twice in a month? All right. So he got about 120 grand in 1 month. Yeah, so one payment came in December, 60 grand, December 7th. Another payment came in December 23rd, about every 2 weeks. Another 60 grand on that. We get to 2016 now. Vice President Biden is meeting with Poroshenko in Switzerland at the World Economic Forum, where he reinforced the linkage between the loan guarantee and reforms. Zlochevsky, in February of 2016, he then gives Hunter Biden unspecified, very extravagant birthday gifts. I wonder what those were. Then in February, Vice President Biden and Poroshenko, they have a phone call. Don't know what they talked about. February 2016, Hunter now gets a little bit of a raise. Robinson Walker drops him a cool $61,000. Biden in Ukraine, February 16th, Poroshenko asks Shokin to resign. Biden calls Poroshenko, thank you for having your prosecutor resign. All after that leverage. Hunter's getting 60,000, 60,000, 60,000. Hunter's meeting with Amos. Hunter's meeting with Daddy. Prosecutor gets fired. We know Zlochevsky was working very hard to get business done elsewhere in America with an IPO and other places. And this was, in his mind, a victory. February 2016, Ukraine. President Poroshenko says he's received Shokin's letter of resignation. March comes about. Hunter gets actually, this one goes to Owasco. So now, let's see here. Yes, Owasco is Hunter Biden's. So Owasco is where the money's going now, into a different professional corporation account. So it's not going into Hunter's, checking account. It's in another shell company, just so we're clear on that. So Hunter then, he goes and he meets with the U.S. ambassador to Romania. March, Ukrainian parliament approves the firing of the prosecutor, General Shokin. And I'm not up to speed with Ukrainian politics or hierarchies, but it might be very similar to like if we fired Merrick Garland, right? The United States chief prosecutor, the attorney general of our country. Ukrainian parliament at the federal level approves. It's a big deal. Romania, Robinson Walker also then wires Owasco, which is Hunty-Poo, $123,000. Man, that's a lot of money. Another payment, $53,000. That one comes in May. July, Hunter gets $116,000. August, Hunter gets $20,000. Hunter in September, $32,000, $20,000 is another payment. October's $41,000, millions now. Or hundreds of thousands coming up, but in total we're going to see it's millions. November comes around, 2016. BEFR agrees to purchase a mining company, a minority stake in African cobalt mines, for $1.14 billion. BEFR, remember, that's the Chinese company. Hunter gets another cool $122,000 from Robinson Walker. We turn to 2017 now. BEFR invests $460 million in a Chinese facial recognition company. We have an important date now in this timeline. Guess what happens? Donald Trump takes control of the White House. Life is feeling much better. The Obama-Biden administration ends. But the nefariousness does not. All these deals have already been done. Unspecified Biden bank account. Don't know where that one went. 20 grand from Robinson Walker. For what? No idea. Another one. Another unspecified Biden account. 20 grand there. February 10th, 2017. Hallie Biden gets 10 grand from Robinson Walker. In China, the chairman, Yi Jianming, gives Hunter a diamond worth $80,000 after having dinner together in Miami, Florida. Hunter, you're so dreamy. Will you be mine? In Romania, Robinson Walker also wires Biden 20 grand, 14 grand, February. Yi Jianming's company drops a cool $3 million back over to Robinson Walker. So it goes through Robinson before it goes over to the Bidens. It's owned by a Biden associate called Rob Walker. Robinson Walker then sends another Biden account $5,000 in March, another $25,000 in March, another $25,000 to Hallie Biden, $50,000 to Hunter, $100,000 to Hunter, $50,000 to Hunter in March. Look at all this money in March. Monster payments. I mean, like, what is this for? Robinson Walker wires Owasco another $100,000 at the end of the March. April, $50,000. $50,000. April 3rd. April 14th, $10,000. $300,000 in April 18th. $120,000 to this other company in China in April. Look at all this money. I'm going to sound like a broken record here. $25,000 here. $125,000 here. In May, Joe Biden attends a CEFC meeting. All this money's being transferred around. Biden family just got paid. Whoa! So now Joe Biden says, oh, what's that company again? Oh, yeah, the CEFC. So he goes to their meeting in Los Angeles. And there's an email that comes out now. This email is between the Biden business associates about the ownership of this new deal, this CEFC deal. And this email mentions 10 held by H for the big guy. 10 held by H for the big guy. In May, China, Robinson Walker sends another Biden account 15 grand. Another account 15 grand. Owasco gets 61 grand. We're now in July. In July, in a message to a Chinese company, Hunter Biden says the following. Please have the director call me. Not James or Tony or Jim. Have him call me tonight. This is Hunter speaking. I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. I am very concerned that the chairman has either changed his mind and broken our deal without telling me, or that he is unaware of the promises and assurances that have been made have not been kept. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand. And now means tonight. And Z, if I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. All too often people mistake kindness for weakness, and all too often I am standing over top of them saying, I warned you from this moment until whenever he reaches me. Okay, my friend, I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. I sure hope whatever it is you're doing is very, very, very important. Man, he talks a tough game when his daddy's the vice president, punk. So we see here that China, on August 2nd, there was an arrangement now between CEFC and Biden family changes as Hunter Biden associates are removed. Hunter writes the following. This whole deal changes. Hunter writes, the chairman changed the deal after we met in Miami to a much more lasting and lucrative arrangement to create a holding company 50% owned by me and 50% owned by him. Consulting fees is one piece of our income stream, but the reason this proposal by the chairman was so much more interesting to me and my family is that we would also be partners in the equity and the profits of the JV's investments. He's a capital investor now, all of a sudden. All right, so August 2nd, the joint entity, now Hudson West, is formed. They form another shell company. 50% of the entity is owned by Gongwen Dong. 50% is owned by Hunter Biden. In another text message, Hunter tells the CEFC associate, Kevin Dong, he says, the Bidens are the best I know at doing exactly what the chairman wants for this partnership. Gongwen is a business associate of Yi Jinping, who executed transactions on his behalf. Big money starts pouring in. CEFC drops $100 grand to Hunter. CEFC then wires $5 million to Hudson West 3, the same company that they just created. The entity, Hudson West 3, is partially owned 50% by Hunty. $5 million gets dropped in there. Hunter then requests keys be made at his office. He's like, man, I'm flush now. We just got $5 million. I got so much crack and hookers in my weekend planned right now. It's going to be nuts. But before we do that, we've got to get keys made for my daddy. He says, we're going to have an office. He says, Joe Biden, Jill Biden, Jim Biden, Gongwen Dong, Chairman Ye, all need to be on the signage at the Biden Foundation and Hudson West. Who's going to be on there? Joe Biden? What? All of that is supposed to be on the sign at the Biden Foundation. Now, this is Patrick Ho. He is an agent, a CEFC agent in America, arrested at the JFK airport on suspicion of bribery and money laundering on behalf of the CEFC, which is the same entity that Gallup is being prosecuted for being related to. And Hunter was here, had a shared office with these guys. February 2018 happens. Treasury FinCEN, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, issues a notice accusing a Latvian company of money laundering. Ye Jianming is detained by Chinese authorities for his economic crimes. Now, nobody knows where he is. He's gone. All right. So the Chinese took care of their side of this criminal operation. That guy's gone. Hunter is like running the White House. They know how to deal with their criminals over there. That guy's gone with the wind. Hunter's like in charge. Here, it continues. So he gets arrested, and now the Hudson West LLC and the CEFC begin to dissolve. The whole thing's a giant scam. The Chinese arrested their dude, or he's dead or gone. Hunter's like, whew, that's what it's called. So he dissolves his LLC. He's like, we don't need that anymore. Patrick Ho is ultimately convicted for violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act in a multinational bribery scheme and various money laundering offenses. Patrick Ho is sentenced to 3 years after he's been found to have been bribing officials in Africa in pursuing oil deals for CEFC China, as well as laundering money through various international accounts. So everybody gets into hot water now. Joe Biden all of a sudden says, I better run for president so that I don't get indicted. Joe Biden responds to reporters in Iowa on this very important date, September 21st, 2019. He's running for president now all of a sudden. Hey, Mr. President, have you ever worked with your son Hunter on his foreign business deals? We've got questions about that. Here's what he said.
Following former Vice President Joe Biden on the campaign trail, Peter Ducey is joining us now from Des Moines, Iowa, live with the very latest. Hi, Peter.
Julie, if there was an abuse of power or a conflict of interest, Joe Biden insists it wasn't him and it wasn't his son. Have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. Here's what I know. I know Trump deserves to be investigated. Trump's doing this because he knows I'll beat him like a drum. And he's using the abuse of power and every element of the presidency to try to do something to smear me.
Joe Biden says no talk of business with his son. His son says some talk of business with dad, or VP. Hunter Biden cooperated with a New Yorker article in July which contains this passage about the energy company Burisma. As Hunter recalled, his father discussed Burisma with him just once. Dad said, "I hope you know what you are doing." And I said, "I do."
Did you? Not sure. In October, Hunter neither played a role in the formation nor the licensure of BHR. This is a spokesman for Hunter dropping this statement. They say, wait a minute, he's running for presidency. His daddy is. Hunter neither played a role in the formation or the licensure of BHR, nor owned any equity in it, while his father was vice president. Right, it was the other shell company underneath that, Hudson West 3. He served only as a member of its board of directors when he joined based on his interest in seeking a way to bring Chinese capital to international markets. It was an unpaid position. He was an intern. To date, Hunter has not received any compensation for being on their board. He's not received any return on investment. Did you just see all those different accounts, transactions in the tunes of hundreds of thousands of dollars that he got? We did. Moreover, Hunter played no role in directing or making BHR investments. He intends to resign from the board. That's it. The media's like, oh, great, nothing to see here. FBI doesn't care, nobody cares. He's running for president. Donald Trump is in the office, so it's all eyes on Trump. December 8, 2019, this interview happens. Joe Biden is asked about Burisma. People are asking questions. Why is he getting paid $80,000 a month for not doing anything? Joe, do you know what your son was up to? Here's what he says.
There's one thing that a lot of Democrats even do wonder about, and that is Hunter Biden, your son, was getting paid a lot of money to serve on the board of a Ukrainian energy company facing serious corruption charges. You were the vice president running point on Ukraine. The average Joe hears that and says, that sounds fishy. What's your understanding of what your son was doing for an extraordinary amount of money?
I don't know what he was doing. I know he was on the board. I found out he was on the board after he was on the board. And that was it. And there's nobody...
Well, you have a lot of time. Isn't this something you want to get to the bottom of?
No, because I trust my son.
But that doesn't pass the smell test. Like, you're the vice president. Isn't there a higher standard? Don't you need to know what's happening with your family? Don't you need to put down some guardrails?
Unless there was something that was... There was something on his face that was wrong.
You don't think that somebody handing your son $80,000 a year to sit on the board of some company and not do anything is strange to you when you're the vice president of the country? You don't think that's weird? Everybody thinks that's weird, right? Or it's a little bit too convenient. It's like that person who's a little bit too nice to you. You're like, no, stop following me around, okay? I don't need help right now. Thank you. No, I'm looking at this. I'm good. Thanks for the help. So it's strange, but he doesn't need to look into it. He knows exactly what's going on. There's no confusion about it. He is getting paid for influence peddling. 2020 comes about. Trump is still in office. Election is well underway. Joe Biden is running. Ukrainian law enforcement announces a $6 million bribery scheme. Into Zolchevsky in order to end the probe into the Burisma founder. $6 million scheme, that's the end of it. June 30th is the FD 1023 form, which we read through in a prior segment. If you missed that, we covered the whole thing. Make sure you catch that video. But the FD 1023 form is created. We're in the middle of election season. It's Biden versus Trump, looking like he's going to win this thing. CHS comes out to the FBI. Hey, we've got some information about the corruption of this family. An FD 1023 form is memorialized. Source appears. We read through the whole thing. He said that there was a $5 million bribe from Burisma to Hunter, $5 million bribe to Biden in exchange for the firing of the prosecutor. We know that happened later on in the date. Now, October comes about. There is a presidential debate that takes place. We talked about it here. Joe Biden says the following: I have not taken a penny from any foreign source anywhere ever in my life.
You were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family. But what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Vice President Biden, you may respond.
This day.
And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. We learned that this president paid 50 times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in...
You saw it. I've never taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. And you go, well, maybe not directly to your bank account, but your son did. And you were doing the bidding of your son. It's very strange that the things that he wanted to get done, you did, and he was getting money hand over fist. And a lot of money. $80,000 per month. I misspoke. Not per year. Per month. He was making $1 million a year for doing nothing. $83,000 plus a month, like clockwork. And we saw the other bills coming in, all of the other remittances that ended up to the tunes of tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, $150,000, $80,000 diamonds. The amount of money here is incredibly significant. Joe Biden, as a father who's the vice president, might want to have the prudence to say, that's a little bit off. I know my son is as dumb as a box of rocks. Everybody else, even in Ukraine, agrees with that. Why would this be happening? He says, my son has not made money in terms of the thing about, what are you talking about? China. The only guy who made money in China is Trump.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about? China. I have not had it. The only guy who made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
And the media just sat there like, well, he said it. He said he didn't make any money, so I guess that's it. Now, in March 2023, there's an important date. The Oversight and the Accountability Committee, they released their first bank records memo, and they find that there was over $1 million in payments from a Chinese company to the Bidens through an associate. $1 million. March 2023, when asked about his family's business dealings and whether Biden family members received money from his foreign son's business associates, Joe Biden responded, that's not true, which of course is a total lie, because we saw the financial records literally going to Hunter's bank accounts, Howley's bank accounts, and other Biden family member bank accounts. So he continues the great lie, saying that it's simply not true.
Any Russian to House Joe's memo about our family dealings, sir? Any Russian to House Joe's memo about our family dealings, sir?
Family dealings?
Yes, you're revealing that Hunter Biden's business associate sent over $1 million to 3 of your family members. Any reactions to that report?
Hunter Biden sent over $1 million to your family members. He says that's not true. And he looks there like he may not know on that one. But I'm not so sure about that. We see another important date. The oversight releases its second bank records memo, revealing that the Bidens were also involved in peddling schemes in Romania and China. And of course, we know that on June 22nd, we also heard about whistleblower testimony that was released as well. And then in July, we had the very great testimony of the IRS whistleblowers who sealed it with their own evidence from their own involvement in this investigation. And one little juicy nugget that came out of that testimony was this question from Congressman Dan Goldman, the man who bought his Congress seat and overpaid for it, and his poor constituents now have to deal with him. He is going to be asking Gary Shapley about this exchange between Hunter and Joe Biden. And he thinks he's very smart in that it proves that Joe Biden was not involved in Hunter's crimes. But he drops the ball on this one, and he gets nailed.
And you testified that he said that Hunter told his dad, according to Rob Walker, quote, "I may be trying to start a company or try to do something with these guys." Now let me ask you something. That doesn't sound much like Joe Biden was involved in whatever Hunter Biden was doing with the CEFC if Hunter Biden is telling him that he's trying to do business with them, does it?
No, but it does show that he told his father he was trying to do business. And he was
Okay, well that is
talking
true.
to
Hunter
his
Biden
father about
does
business.
try to do business, that's correct. So you don't not only have no direct evidence connecting Joe Biden to any of Hunter Biden's business deal, you actually had proof that he wasn't involved. That is the proof that you had.
We have proof that they had conversations, even by your own little fact pattern right there. What a doofus. All right, one more time. You see how caught off guard he was? Whatever intern put that together, actually, I don't even want to blame the interns. I would assume that this guy probably put that together. Probably thought he had a zinger coming out of his back pocket there. Ends up stepping in it face first.
And you testified that he said that Hunter told his dad, according to Rob Walker,
Hunter told Dad,
"I may be trying to start a company or try to do something with these guys."
Hunter's telling Daddy, "Hey, Daddy, we're going to work on a business deal. You're the vice president."
Now let me ask you something. That doesn't sound much like Joe Biden was involved in whatever Hunter Biden was doing with the CEC if Hunter Biden is telling him that he's trying to do business with them, does it?
He's only trying to, not that he is actually doing it.
No, but it does show that he told his father he was trying to do business.
Okay, well that is true. Hunter Biden does try to do business, that's correct. So you don't not only have no direct evidence connecting...
Oh man, what a doofus. All right, so that's who's in charge there. Now, he should probably go work for the FBI. That's probably what they were doing, investigating Hunter. I have no idea what's going on. And that's just how this goes. So 14 years of the Biden crime family exposed in beautiful detail. And if you want to access this timeline or any of the links or any of the videos that you saw here today, go to robertgovea.com, sign up for the newsletter, access the mind map, and you can literally access this mind map, including clicking these links and accessing anything you see here. So we'll see if this continues to evolve. We know, I think we're just getting started. I think that this timeline will carry us into 2024 as more is exposed. Complex web, complicated business, but we're still marching on. And thank you, my friends, for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. We'll look forward to seeing you as we cover it onward. All right. And so let's wrap it up with a little congressional obliteration. Democratic presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. showed up in Congress today for a censorship hearing, and the Democrats didn't want to hear from him because they don't like things that challenge their worldview. And so what did they do right out of the gate? They moved to literally censor him at a censorship hearing. This woman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, moved for the vote. All of the Democrats jumped in on this thing, and then RFK Jr. blasted them. Reminded them that this is not what their party is about. He's flanked by Dennis Kucinich there, smiling away the whole time, and he finishes his statement with a beautiful round of applause from the people who recognize the importance of free speech. Maybe the Democrats will realize this at some point. But here it is. In Congress, at a censorship hearing, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. seated right here. We've got Chairman of the Weaponization and Judiciary Committees, Jim Jordan. He's flanked by Stacey Plaskett. We know others like Thomas Massie are in the House. All the Democrats on this side of the panel. Here is what they did at the start of this hearing.
I'd like to raise a point of order.
Lady, say a point of order.
Point of order pursuant to House Rule 11, Clause 2, which Mr. Kennedy is violative of. I move that we move into executive session because Mr. Kennedy has repeatedly made despicable anti-Semitic and anti-Asian comments as recently as last week. Rule 11, Clause 2.
Despicable comments. Now, they're trying to move this into executive session. They want to close this off from the public proceeding. And it feels very convenient because isn't one of their constituents, one of their members in Congress, under a lot of fire for saying some pretty awful things about other people around this world?
Says, whenever it is asserted by a member of the committee that the evidence or testimony at a hearing may tend to defame, degrade, or incriminate any person, or it is asserted by a witness that the evidence or testimony that the witness would give at a hearing may tend to defame, degrade, or incriminate the witness, and it goes on. Mr. Kennedy, among many other things, has said, I know a lot now about bioweapons. We've put out hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there is an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are...
Lady making a motion or a speech?
I made a motion to move into executive session because Mr. Kennedy's testimony...
Mr. Chairman, I move to table the motion.
And we're pausing for our YouTube medical censors out there. This is not medical advice. This is a debate about what Robert F. Kennedy said, and she's saying that this was a racist statement, essentially, that this was disproportionately impacting different demographics, and it was offensive, and that now Kennedy is going to be coming out here and violating House rules by having made that statement. He hasn't even testified yet. He's not made any statement like this in Congress, but they're saying that he said something like that. She kind of cobbled together his words, and he'll explain it, saying that it's been taken out of context. But they are now trying to shut him up now, silence him.
The gentleman from Kentucky has moved to table.
Mr. Chairman, I ask for a roll call vote on the motion to table.
Every Democrat's going to vote yes.
On the motion to table. The gentlelady has asked for a roll call vote. The clerk will have to step back for a second. The clerk will have to come and call the roll on the motion to table. And then we can get back to testimony.
I think the witnesses can sit in the chairs sitting behind.
I'll leave that up to the clerks. If the clerks are comfortable with that. Yeah, why don't we do that? Maybe we can go right down here.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Gentleman from Louisiana.
Is it the custom of this committee to censor viewpoints that we disagree with from witnesses?
Mr. Chairman, that's not a point of order. Motion on the table.
There's a motion and a vote.
We're
waiting for the clerks.
Is violative of Rule 11, Clause 2.
Waiting for the clerks. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Mr. Jordan votes yes. Mr. Issa? Mr. Massey?
Yes, to not censor.
Mr. Massey votes
Shout out
yes.
to Massey.
Mr. Stewart? Yes. Mr. Stewart votes yes. Ms. Stefanik? Yes. Ms. Stefanik votes yes. Mr. Gates?
Somebody get Matt Gates.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson of Louisiana votes yes. Mr. Armstrong? Yes. Mr. Armstrong votes yes. Mr. Stubbe? Mr. Bishop? Yes. Mr. Bishop votes yes. Ms. Kamek? Yes. Ms. Kamek votes yes. Ms. Hageman? Ms. Hageman votes yes. Ms. Plaskett?
No, I want to follow the rules that the Republicans made at the beginning of this conference.
Democrats now.
So no.
Ms. Plaskett votes no. Mr. Lynch? No. Mr. Lynch votes no. Ms. Sanchez?
No, because it's violative of the rules.
Ms. Sanchez votes no.
Censor.
Ms. Wasserman Schultz?
No to allowing a witness to
Censor.
degrade and does not speak time. Violate the rules.
We got your vote.
And not have his
Cut down,
testimony and
Deputy.
degradation amplified.
Mr. Chair.
rather
Just
than
say no.
given in executive session.
Ms. Wasserman Schultz
Gosh.
votes no.
Censor.
Mr. Connolly?
Censor.
Ms.
Censor.
Connolly votes no. Mr. Garamendi?
No.
Mr. Garamendi
Censor.
votes no. Mr. Allred? Ms. Garcia?
No.
Ms. Garcia votes
Censor.
no. Mr. Goldman?
No to hate speech.
Mr.
Censor.
Goldman votes no.
You're hateful. All right, so back over to the Republicans.
Mr. Gates.
Gates is
Mr.
here.
Gates? Mr. Gates votes aye.
Clerk will report.
Mr. Chairman, there are 10 ayes and 8 noes.
The motion to table is agreed to.
Motion to table is agreed to. Your stupid censor motion fails. You don't control the votes, even though you're trying to censor people. Not in this house. You might still control YouTube and Facebook and some of the other platforms, but not here. Now, Robert Kennedy's going to respond to all this here in a minute, but I wanted to play this other clip from Stacey Plaskett, just so we can understand where these people are coming from and how almost demented they are. This is a hearing about speech in America, about free speech. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a Democrat, been a lifelong Democrat, has a ton of Democratic positions that I think are in total alignment with the Democratic Party. A lot of them are not, because their ideology has gotten so far askew from where it used to be. But he is on their team, technically. He's running for their party. And he's only here to talk about speech, to say that he was censored when he was sharing his perspective. Has nothing to do with Donald Trump at all. He was talking about pandemic stuff and other issues. But watch where this goes immediately from Stacey Plaskett.
Mr. Kennedy's and others here are claiming that they've been censored, but they actually have a huge megaphone.
They have been censored. They were suppressed off YouTube, thrown off different platforms. Hello?
The rules that my colleague tried to bring up are rules that the Republicans made at the beginning of this Congress. They did not allow the Democrats to be part of that. And one of those rules was that if information or testimony might potentially defame an individual, that we would go in executive session. No one was trying to stop him from testifying, but not to give him the megaphone that this group has allowed him to have. I also note, in terms of censorship, that the far-right media has already issued articles about me playing the race card.
Well,
the race card is something that's often used against Black people for bringing up when they see race hatred being propagated against them. And it's a means to try and keep us quiet and keep us in our place. Oh, you're playing the race card by bringing up what is obvious in our lives, what is obviously happening, race. And so you keep saying I'm race baiting and try and censor me, but I'm going to continue to tell the truth.
Oh, wow.
I want to be
you racist bigots. So how dare you even say, first of all, if you voted against her vote, you're a racist. And if you don't support her...
Okay, everybody, I'm here, but this woman here, I can't stand her because of the way she acts. I mean, she is one of the worst, and when I watch that sometimes, I can't watch it because she's on there. She makes me so angry. Because she has no idea anything about anything. I mean, she just don't.
Censoring this guy, you're a bigot. And she's going to bring it up. And if you even challenge her about it, you're racist for that too. So just get used to it no matter what happens. Every morning, look at yourself in the mirror and just remind yourself, you're a racist bigot. That's what I do.
Abundantly clear about what else is happening in this room. The MAGA Republicans are trying to scare social media companies into not taking down blatantly false information in the lead up to our 2024 presidential election. Chair Jordan knows, as we do, that when conspiracy theories succeed, so does Donald Trump.
Whoa! Man, she's amazing. All right, so I it's hard to imagine that there is, like, it's almost like a character, like you'd write in a terrible Netflix series or something. It's just outstanding. So she's there screaming about racism and about, I don't even know what, in a censorship hearing where she's moving to support censorship of a Democrat in her own committee. And this, my friends, is when I talk about these people are going to fail, this is what I'm talking about, okay? I don't know how they're going to get anything done if this is how they operate all the time. It's just nuts. And here we have a reasonable Democrat, which I know is an oxymoron these days, but it's true. He is flanked here by Dennis Kucinich, who turned out to be one of the best prognosticators of a lot of things in quite some time is here. The normal Democrats are back in Congress, and he delivers a burner reminding us why free speech is so dang important.
Start. I want to put aside my written statement for a moment.
Dump it aside.
Then address one of the points that was brought up. I think an important point by the ranking member, that this body ought to be concerning itself with the issues that impact directly the American people. The rising price of groceries, 76% over the past 2 years for basic foodstuff, the war in Ukraine, the inflation issues, the border issues, and many, many other issues that concern us all as a nation. We can't do that without the First Amendment, without debate. When I gave my speech, my announcement speech in Boston 2 months ago, I talked about all those issues. I focused on grocery. I focused on the fact that working class people can no longer afford to live in this country. I talked about inflation, all the issues that deeply concern you, and that you've devoted your career to alleviate those issues.
Looking at the Democrats.
5 minutes into my speech, when I was talking about Paul Revere, YouTube deplatformed me.
Nice.
I didn't talk about vaccines in that speech. I didn't talk about anything that was a verbose subject. I just was talking about my campaign and things, the conversation, and we ought to be happy with each other as Americans. But I was shut down, and that...
This here is, I suppose you know that this is Robert Kennedy, Robert Kennedy's son. Robert Kennedy was assassinated because Robert Kennedy was against racism, and he and Martin Luther King were in the same circle, and to say that this man is racist is a lie, because his dad, he was assassinated because of what he believed in. He was assassinated probably by the same ones that took his brother. But yeah, so you have to be careful what you say.
Is why the First Amendment is important. Debate, congenial, respectful debate, is the fertilizer, it's the water, it's the sunlight for our democracy.
Absolutely.
We need to be talking to each other.
First Amendment.
This is a letter that many of you signed. Many of my fellow Democrats. I've spent my life in this party. I've devoted my life to the values of this party. This 102 people signed this.
Idiots.
This itself is evidence of the problem that this hearing was convened to address. This is an attempt to censor a censorship hearing. The
102
charge is
people signed up.
and by the way, censorship is antithetical to our party. It was appalling to my father, to my uncle, to FDR, Harry Truman, to Thomas Jefferson, as Chairman referred to. It is the basis for democracy. It sets us apart from all of the previous forms of government. We need to be able to talk, and the First Amendment was not written for easy speech. It was written for the speech that nobody likes you for.
So the Democrats go, they get 102 people who are offended by something. They draft a letter. They're going to shove it in front of his face. And they're going to say, you can't talk about this because 102 colleagues say you're a racist or something like that. They always do this with their stupid letters. They did this with their 51 so-called intelligence experts that told us that we couldn't talk about the Hunter Biden laptop. They try it all the time. It's not working anymore.
And I was censored not just by the Democratic administration. I was censored by the Trump administration.
All
I was the first person censored by as the chairman pointed out. by the Biden administration 2 days after it came into office. It awarded a truthful, and by the way, they had to invent a new word called malinformation to censor people like me. There was no misinformation on my Instagram account. Everything I put on that account was cited and sourced. The peer-reviewed publications or government databases. Nobody has ever pointed to a single piece of misinformation that I published. I was removed for something they call malinformation. Malinformation is information that is true, but is inconvenient to the government, that they don't want people to hear. And that's antithetical to the values of our country. After I announced my presidency, it became more difficult for people to censor me outright. So now I'm subject to this new form of censorship, which is called targeted propaganda, where people apply pejoratives like anti-vax. I've never been anti-vaccine, but everybody in this room probably believes that I have been, because that's the prevailing narrative.
They label him that.
Anti-Semitism, racism. These are the most appalling, disgusting pejoratives, and they're applied to me to silence me. Because people don't want me to have that conversation about the war, about groceries, about inflation, about the war on the middle class in this country that we need to be having. And by the way, I want to say this while I'm on the record, that in my entire life, and why I'm under oath, in my entire life, I have never uttered a phrase that was either racist or anti-Semitic. I have spent my life fighting my professional career, fighting for Israel, for the protection of Israel. I have a better record on Israel than anybody in this chamber today. I'm the only person who has publicly objected to the $2 billion payout that the Biden administration is now making to Iran, which is a genocidal program. I'm the only one who's objected to that. I fought more ferociously for Israel than anybody. But I am being censored here through this target, through sneers, through misinterpretations of what I said, through lies, through association, which is a tactic that we all thought we had been discredited and dispensed with after the Army McCarthy hearings in the 1950s.
No, it's live.
Those same weapons are now being deployed against me to silence me.
A fellow Democrat.
I know many of the people who wrote this letter.
Garbage letter.
I don't believe there's a single person who signed this letter who believes I'm anti-Semitic.
Right on.
I do not believe that. There is no evidence of that. I want to say something I think that's more important, and it goes directly to what you talked about, ranking member, which is the need, this toxic polarization that is destroying our country today. And how do we deal with that? This kind of division is more dangerous for our country than any time since the American Civil War. And how do we deal with that? How are we going to, every Democrat on this committee believes that we need to end that polarization. Do you think you can do that by censoring people? I'm telling you, you cannot. That only aggravates and amplifies the problem.
I think he's being very generous to his fellow side. I don't think they have any interest in unity or stopping this division in a minute. I think that they want total victory. They want total subjugation. It's their way or the highway. There's no unity. There's no room for people with opposing viewpoints. It's blood sport now. So I really appreciate this faith that they're operating that way in good faith, but I think that is incorrect. I think Kucinich thought that way. I think Kennedy's an old school Democrat who thinks that way. But AOC, Stacey Plaskett, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, these people have a bloodthirst for total power. They don't want any unity and split votes. Well, let's compromise with the Republicans. No. They'd rather them all thrown in the gulags in D.C.
We need to start being kind to each other. We need to start being respectful to each other.
That is true.
We need to start restoring the comedy to this chamber and to the rest of America, but it has to start here. My uncle, Edward Kennedy, has more legislation with his name on it than any senator in the United States history. Why is that? Because he was able to reach across the aisle, because he didn't deal in insults, because he didn't try to censor people. He brought home people who were antithetical to what he believed in. He came home almost every weekend with people like Orrin Hatch to our house at the compound in Hyannisport. At that time, Orrin Hatch to me was like Darth Vader, because I was an environmentalist, and I was saying, why is Teddy bringing this guy home? But he knew he was effective because he understood that comedy and respect and kindness and compassion and empathy for other people is the only way to restore the function in this chamber. But more importantly, today we need to give an example in the leadership of our country of being respectful to each other. If you think I said something that's anti-Semitic, let's talk about the details. I'm telling you all the things that I'm accused of right now by you. And in this letter are distortions, they're misrepresentations. I didn't say those things.
And she has him right in front of the whole world to see the opportunity to call him out on every one of those statements. She could say she's on Congress. She's right up there on a very tiny little podium up there to make her feel all high up there. All powerful. Hey, Mr. Kennedy, I saw that you said these racist things. Why are you a racist? Would be a great question. And he could respond to that. But she's not interested in that. She'd rather him just be silenced so that she can sit up there on her podium and call him a racist without him being able to respond. She doesn't want a conversation. She wants a bullhorn.
There's fragments that I said, but I denounce anybody who uses the words that I have said to imply something that is negative about people who are Jewish. I never said those things. And I want to point out also that the chairman pointed to Dennis Kucinich, who's right behind me. There is no two people in the country who feel more differently about American politics than these two people. And yet they were friends. Dennis attended his children's basketball games, attended his daughter's wedding. This is what we need, how we need to start treating each other in this country. We have to stop trying to destroy each other, to marginalize, to vilify, to gaslight each other.
To prosecute.
We have to find that place inside ourselves of light, of empathy, of compassion, and above all, we need to elevate the Constitution of the United States, which was written for hard times. And that has to be the premier compass for all of our activities. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to raise a point of order.
So I think somebody chimed in there and said, can we shut him up, please? I think he went over time, or something like that. So they kept trying to censor him throughout the remainder of the proceeding, and belittle him and castigate him for being a racist bigot and all the things, even though he's not. You have the opportunity to speak in this country, guaranteed by the First Amendment. The Democrats hate that. They want to censor even their own party when there's a little bit of unorthodoxy thinking that occurs there. So shout out to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for his impassioned speech on free speech, the most important issue of our time, the thing that they're trying to take away from us, which means everything else follows. If we can't speak about reality, if we can't manifest our humanity through our thinking and speaking, we're slaves. And we don't want to exist in that world. The Democrats love to censor their opponents. We hope that the good Democrats in the Democratic Party rally around Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and he sets their party back on track. Amazing. All right, so that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We covered some good ground. Now we've got Kennedy in Congress obliterating his own party for being censorious hacks. we've got Dan Goldman finally recognizing, yeah, maybe there was some smoke here, a little bit of a problem with the Biden crime family. We covered the entire timeline, and there's a lot of juice there. We also saw the FD 1023 form was released, and as always, if you want any of these documents, if you want to navigate here and literally download the PDF or navigate over here and get the link for Chuck Grassley, go on over to robertgovea.com. You can sign up for the mind map and the newsletter, and there you can get all of these goodies and more. robertgovea.com, all totally free. We also have reports on the videos, so if you'd rather read the story rather than watch the story, you can check that out at robertgovea.com as well. And so, now, my friends, let's turn our attention over to you and see what you have to say about this. Hey, Dolphin!
Well, it was amazing. That's kind of sad, to see Robert Kennedy be treated like that. Anybody being treated like that, but especially an old school Democrat, where his dad and both his brothers were in politics. Or John, like Bobby Kennedy and Ed Kennedy are both in politics. They were all three. Unfortunately, Robert Kennedy was assassinated and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just disturbing to see that. I feel for him. I mean, because that's not the day he came from. That's not the day I came from. Today is totally different than when I was raised. We were raised not to hate. We were raised that all people had people that there's bad people in all, but there's also good people in all. And you cannot sit there and pick one race and say they're racist because of the color of the skin. What makes it right for a black person to be racist against a white person because of the color of their skin when they get angry at white people for thinking that? Any race. But they have the wrong leaders, the wrong people who teach them, and stuff like that. I grew up with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and to what I know of the Malcolm X, it's not the same Malcolm X they think he is. And Black Panthers and the Klan and hate groups. I don't care for hate groups because they're all the same. If you don't agree with them, that's what they do. They don't want you to hear from you. That's exactly what they do. So what makes it different than what these Democrats are doing than to what the people they supposedly hate? But with that said, I'd like to thank you for watching and take care of yourself. I'm going to try to get up some more videos. I've got a few of them to think about, but with that said, I just thought that'd be interesting that you might want to hear that about the supposed document and stuff like that, plus Kennedy. That bothers me when they do stuff like that. But with that said, God bless everyone. Stay safe. Beware of what's going on and stuff like that, and get prepared because we're in for a long ride. Thank you for watching.